In this video, we walk through the CE Manager login process, a high-level description of system functionality, as well as the end-user portal interface. Every user associated with your firm will access CE Manager via the same URL, whether that user be an employee, system administrator, or client. If your firm uses single sign-on with CE Manager, you will see an SSO button on this login page. I'll use my own system administrator credentials to log in. Upon logging into CE Manager as a system administrator, you'll see a screen with three main sections: navigation buttons, the dashboard, and three buttons at the top. Starting with the top header bar, we click on Help to find instructions on how to perform tasks in CE Manager. For example, we want to learn more about learning plans. Click Calendar to see in calendar form all historical and upcoming live courses, both those held in person and remotely. Clicking on any particular course takes you to that particular session of the course. We close our calendar to see the dashboard. Click your avatar to access your portal instance. Adjust your preferences such as adding a signature, changing a password, or adjusting your preferred time zone. And signing out. We highly recommend that you sign out when you are done with CE Manager at the end of your day. Next, let's take a brief look at each one of the navigation buttons. The far left-hand side shows a series of module navigation buttons that are used to access major functionality in this application. Currently, we are at Home. In the Home module, as indicated by the blue shading, we access major functionality in the application. Next, let's take a brief look at each of the navigation buttons. Currently, we are on the Home module as indicated by the blue navigation button. Here, we see the dashboard, which provides summary level information of upcoming live training, reporting periods ending soon, favorite reports, a log of messages that we have sent from CE Manager, learning plans, announcements, help information, and support contact information. Note that clicking in any of these sections takes us to one of the associated modules as highlighted in the left-hand side, as we will shortly see. Let's take a look at system modules accessed via the navigation buttons, starting with system users. This module lists all user profiles in CE Manager, which includes employees, both licensed and non-licensed, system administrators, as indicated by the green A, and clients, as indicated by the orange C. Here we also have the ability to search for users or use filters to narrow our search on particular users. Finally, we click on a user's name to open his or her profile. Next, we click on Learning. Clicking on this button, three options appear: courses, activities, and learning plans. A course is, in summary, a title and provider. Here we see the course title, the different formats it's offered in, how many sessions are in that course, who the provider is, and a green dot meaning that it is an active course and you can register people for it. Let's click on a course to open it. Upon opening a course, you should see one or more sessions. Sessions house the vast majority of course functionality, including the date, format, registrants, and continuing education credits. Next, let's look at activities. Where courses have definitive starting and ending points, activities are tasks that need to be performed by the user, such as meet with your mentor or download and read the employee handbook. Next, let's look at learning plans. These are collections of courses and activities. Once courses and activities are bundled together in a learning plan, assign users to that learning plan to guide their training and tasks. To tidy up our buttons on the left-hand side, we click on the white CE button. Compliance. In the licensees category, we see a list of all licensed users and a view of their overall compliance. Like the other modules, we can set filters to view subsets of users. Let's try a filter out by clicking Filter By. Let's go ahead and select a license, such as California Law, add it, and see all of those who are in progress, and apply the filter. We see the results in 2 individuals who are in progress who have the California Law license. Next, in the statistics category, we see a list of licenses as well as the number of users who fall into various categories. The categories consist of items such as the number of people in compliance, those in progress, or those with a prior period deficiency. Upon hovering over any item where your pointer turns into an index finger, has a drill through function built into it. In this case, we would see the 2 California accountants who have a prior period deficiency. In the reports category, we see compliance-related reports. These reports can also be found in the reports module. In the regulator summaries category, click on any of the associated summaries to see the license rules and regulations. For example, California Law. We see a summary, and we always have the option to see the official website. Let's close this window. Finally, we have the Fields of Study Mapping category. Here we can click on any accounting license to see how fields of studies credits map to the particular license. Let's say Connecticut Accounting. And we see for field of study, accounting maps to, in Connecticut, the accounting and auditing credit type. For our next navigation button, let's look at reports. This module contains a list of stock reports sorted by category. Reports have 1 or more parameters that are used to narrow down the resulting data. We focus on reports in detail in module number 5. Next, we have the library module. This module houses all uploaded files and links to files. And we have a series of filter buttons along the top. File shows us documents such as PDF, Word, Excel documents, maybe PowerPoint. We see images, which are frequently different variations of a firm's logos. We see videos. Often these are in the MP4 format, and often they're recordings of CLE or CPE trainings. We have audio, which are similar to podcasts. These are typically in the MP3 format. Form packages, which are highly interactive videos, typically with a quiz component built into them. And finally, we have links. Not all files have to be loaded into CE Manager for our users to access them in the instance of link. If you have a web-based document management system, you can bring that link into the system, and upon a user clicking it, it would take them to whatever system is housing that document and open it, such as SharePoint. System configuration. Use this module to modify how the aspects of the system operate. For example, adjust system settings, adjust security, and update information listed in drop-down menus. Let's go back to our home page. The dashboard itself contains summary level information and shortcuts for you to get information that you need quickly. This week's sessions. This first dashboard tile displays all live courses for the week, day by day. To see more information on a specific course, we just click on it. Reporting periods ending soon. This tile displays licenses that have one or more users who have a compliance period that's ending relatively soon. Click on a particular license to see all the employees who have an upcoming due date, such as in New York law. We see Jesse and Dominique. Notice how this moves us to the compliance module. Let's go back to the dashboard and back to reporting periods ending soon. The column indicators denote what the numbers mean. For example, 2 indicates that 2 people are in compliance. All numbers in the in progress category identify those who are working on their license and not overdue. And finally, we see those with a prior period deficiency. Clicking on any of the numbers takes us to a page that shows us the individuals in this case that have a Colorado law license that is in progress. Go back to the dashboard. Favorite reports. In this tile, any report that we flag as a favorite displays here. For example, the HR export. Upon clicking, we see one or more criteria that we need to fill in. If you see an asterisk, you must fill it in. If there is no asterisk, that field is optional. You go ahead and change your status to active. And we want to see our employees, and we click Generate Report to see it. Back to the dashboard. Next, let's look at learning plans. Your most recently updated learning plans will display here, as well as the number of mandatory courses, learner's choice courses, and activities. Scrolling down, we see email logs. This tile lists messages recently sent via CE Manager. Email logs can be helpful in determining exactly when a message was sent, how many people it was sent to, as well if the sending process is done or not. For example, we click on an email subject, and for one of the recipients, say Alyssa Curry, we can look at her email that was received. We go back to the dashboard. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we see the section for CE Manager announcements. The announcements displayed here are also sent via email to many of the CE Manager System Administrator clients. Click on the name to view the message, and to see previous messages, just click the previous button and select the appropriate message. Looking for support. Here, you can access the help guide that takes you to the same place as the help button in the header bar. You can find our phone number for support and our email address. Now we turn our attention to the System Users module. Here we see a list of all system users, and to begin, we add a new user. Here we have 3 options. Employee. These are people employed by our firm who don't have system administrator rights. Think of these as CPAs, attorneys, marketing team members, and administrative assistants. System administrator. These people can operate and update the CE Manager learning management system. For example, system administrators can add users, create courses, and run a variety of reports. Client. These are people who are not employed by our firm, but who are allowed to access our training offerings. For example, a former employee becomes general counsel at a firm. In order to keep her law license up to date, she is required to take a certain amount of training each year. Our firm could offer part or all of that training. Let's add an employee user. To get started, any field that we see that has an asterisk is required. If you do not see an asterisk, it is not required. We'll enter a first name, email address. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy everything in front of the @ symbol and the email address, and we'll find out why in just a moment. If the person has a preferred nickname, we could list it here. Personnel ID. Frequently we see firms use the HR system ID that's held outside of CE Manager. If you want, you can use the person's email address, everything in front of the @ symbol. We could list a hire date, such as today, and we must enter an office location. Scrolling down, we see security role. For employees, we can add an additional level of functionality to their role, such as administrative assistant, instructor, supervisor. We will cover that in another training program, so we will stick with employee for now. Login ID. We highly recommend that you use everything in front of the @ symbol in that person's email address. Send credentials via email. This is turned on by default, but in this case, since this is a fictitious email address, I'm going to turn it off. Otherwise, if it is turned on, as soon as I'm finished creating the profile, this person will receive an email indicating that they can access the system and log in, resetting their password. Finally, on this first screen, we can add a profile picture. You can either browse for the file or drag and drop. And resize what we want to see in the image. Click Next and finish. Our first screen of the employee profile is all up to date. Let's click Next. Next screen, additional information. In additional information, all of the field values are optional. We see administrative assistant, where we can select administrative assistant. We can also select the person's supervisor, and select values for the other fields. You can also fill in class year, ethnicity, gender, telephone number if your firm tracks that information. Another thing that you may want to do is you may want to add private administrator notes. These are notes that the end user is not going to see. For example, we'll say aiming for partner, plunge him with advanced learning plans. Seeing that this page is complete, we will click on Next. Here we can select licenses that the person holds. We'll grab California Law and California Accounting as an example. Click on Next. For each license that you enter, there will be one or more fields that you must populate. For example, California Accounting requires 2 fields, license issue date and birth date. So for license issue date, we will list this year and a birth date. Come up with a birth date. Reporting period override, if it exists, go ahead and enter. We do recommend that you put in a license number. Then we have a license renewal date. If you have this information from the accountant in this case, go ahead and enter it here. And here we have renewal frequency. Just note, with these licenses, each one of them is slightly or significantly different from the other ones. In addition, we have several toggle buttons that we can turn on or off. Licenses pending, if this is turned on, then all of the mandatory requirements for these fields are taken away, and it's really in a holding pattern until we turn this off and have those required fields entered. Then, once a person has taken several courses, those course credits will flow through, in this case, to the California Accounting Compliance Report. If the license is inactive, the person is not keeping up with continuing education, we would turn it on to yes. If for any reason we do not track status or due date, but want to have the license in the system, we click on do not track status or due date. And finally, do not display this license to the professional. If we turn this on, the professional, in this case a CPA, would not be able to see this license in his or her portal. We'll turn this off and fill in California information. We click on Next and review the information on this page to make sure everything is accurate. Feel free to click on Edit Details, Edit Licenses, or step back one page at a time. In this case, we are finished. Darius's profile is now complete, and we can always go back and edit it at another time. Now, let's add a client user. Back to System Users. Click on Add User. And we click on Client. Again, in this screen, any field that we see that has an asterisk must be filled in. Others do not need to be filled in. So we'll start with first name. Last name, and fill in an email address. I will select everything in front of the @ symbol in that email address. Under security role, we have two options. If this person is performing instructional activities for us, we would select instructor, but in this case, we will leave client. We do have the option to give the person, the client in this case, access to the portal. If we click on yes, we do recommend that you paste the front part of the person's email address inside of login ID. And if this field is turned on for send credentials via email, that person will receive an email right after we click finish with instructions on how to update their profile. We click on next. Just like when we add an employee, we can add additional information for the client. The fields are slightly different than what you will see in the employee field. Of particular note is the client affiliation field. Here we can select which one of our clients or which client this person is associated with. Please note, all of the values in the drop-down fields on this page and others can be modified in the system configuration module. We'll cover that in another training video. Click Next. While CE Manager does not track compliance, it is helpful to know which licenses a particular attorney or CPA has. So we will select two licenses here, and we enter their bar license information. And click Next. And review the client information before clicking on Finish. Again, take a few moments to review your entries. We step back screen by screen or go directly to Details or Edit Licenses. Now we click on Finish. Moving on, we're going to view an employee's profile. We could click on System Users, but this time we're going to click on the back button. In this instance, we will look at the profile for Eric Blakely. Clicking on the name shows us 4 tabs at the top. We are on the first tab, Overview. This shows profile data in the left-hand panel, upcoming registered courses that are live, any licenses and certifications that the person has, and finally, any learning plans that are assigned to the individual. On the Compliance tab, we see additional license by license information, starting with the different jurisdictions, reporting periods, status, if there are additional credits needed, additional requirements, rules for the different jurisdictions, and actions for each jurisdiction. If we wanted to know more about the rules for New York law, we would click on the CE. This gives us a summary, and we can always go to the official website to see the rules. By clicking on any of the jurisdictions, we would see the compliance report for ERIC. Transcript. Here we see the user's course history. We utilize filters to narrow down the list, such as, do we want to see activities, courses, or everything? Which license we want to see, currently selected to all, or a specific license. And courses starting as of a specific date or ending on a specific date. Finally, searching on specific portions of a course name. As you will see in certificates, we have an icon to print the certificate. Upon clicking the certificate, we get a menu for which type of certificate we want to see. In this case, we want to see both Illinois and New York. View. Ensure that this is, in fact, the set of certificates we wish to see. Print again. And we want to save as PDF in any instance we can. This will result in the best product in the PDF we download upon clicking Save. Click on Cancel, close here, and close here. As a differentiator, these are in-house certificates. In-house meaning your organization is the provider. These certificates are created on the fly. As a differentiator, this is a third-party certificate. It has a slightly different image. You see that Bauer & Stein is a provider, not our firm. And if we click on it, we have the ability to download the third-party certificate. Learning plans. Here we see for Eric any learning plans that he is part of. In this particular case, he's in the onboarding learning plan. He is added to it manually. When did it start? When is it finished? When is he due to finish this learning plan? And then how's he doing on mandatory courses versus learner's choice versus activities? Let's go back a level. And here we wish to investigate a person's portal. So for Alaya, we want to see what she sees inside of the portal. So we click on the ellipses and we view user and portal. As a system administrator, you have access to a wealth of functionality to manage the learning experiences as well as track continuing education credits for your users. When a user logs into CE Manager utilizing the same URL, that person will see an intuitive interface as we see here. As an administrator, you can pull up any user profile in the portal view to see what they are seeing. Now this portal view is how end users interact with the CE Manager. Similar in this to the system administrator side, we have navigation buttons. These navigation buttons correspond with the tiles on the right. One note, Team View is specifically reserved for supervisors and for administrative assistants. Not all attorneys or CPAs will see this. Starting at the top, we have our course catalog. This lists available courses both in progress, on-demand courses, and upcoming live. We see filters for on-demand, classroom, and webinar. These courses can be filtered on search criteria for naming. We go back to home and go to course calendar, which corresponds to calendar in the navigation pane. The course calendar lists all live courses in a calendar view. Upon clicking on any of the courses, one can register for that course. For example, and then click on Enroll. From registration, yes. Now we see that Alaya is enrolled. Next, we go to My Courses. Instead of going home and clicking on the My Courses tab, we're going to click on the button. Here we see a list of in progress to on-demand courses, which we have none as of right now. And over to the right, we see live courses that are coming up. Let's look at compliance. Compliance shows us all of the licenses, certifications that we have. And upon clicking on any of these licenses or certifications, we see that compliance report. This view is very similar to the System Administrator view in that we can toggle between the different licenses that we have, all the periods that are in our compliance report. We can pull up the rules for the specific jurisdiction, and we can print that compliance report. To close, we go ahead and click on the X. Moving on to learning plans. If the user is part of a learning plan, that learning plan will show up here. Transcript. Transcript is a list of the user's full course history. Transcript here is very similar to what we see in the System Administrator view when looking up the user. We see that the user can print a certificate or evaluate a class that he or she has not evaluated yet. If the user sees an orange cloud with an arrow, that means it's a third-party course, in this case from Lawline, where the certificate has not been uploaded yet. The user can, at that point, upload the certificate. And finally, Team View. Team View is for supervisors and administrative assistants, and we'll cover this in another video. For now, I'm going to go ahead and close the portal view. Back on the System Users page, this lists every profile in CE Manager, which includes employees, both those licensed and non-licensed, system administrators, and clients who are not employees. To quickly find a user, just type part of the person's name in the search field. Like so. To filter on users, we can use the quick filter. Right now we have three options: active users, inactive users, and all users. We can add to this quick filter by going to the Filter By button on the far right-hand side. If we click on Filter By, this is a more robust filter. In this case, I want to see all the users who are of the employee type and are in the Denver location. If I wanted to save this query or filter to the quick filter, I would simply click on the floppy disk icon and name it. I'm not going to do so in this case. I simply want to apply the filter. This narrows down my list to all employees who are in the Denver office. Inside of each person's profile row, we see a series of options. By clicking on the kebab, we could view that user in the portal. We could view the user's details, such as what department he or she is in, what his or her title is, who his or her supervisor is, etc. We can edit that user, such as change a last name or update personnel ID. We can change their login ID, what they use to get into the system. We can set them to inactive, bringing them out of this list and putting them to the side if they are no longer with the firm. And finally, we can email them. In this case, we're going to approach emailing through another avenue called Actions. So I'm going to click outside of this. And now what I'd like to do is perform an action on a few users at the same time. With several checkboxes checked, I'm going to click on Actions, and I can create a group. So if I want to group together these people, I give them a common name, such as that. Click on Next, Next, and Finish. Before we move on with actions, these groups can be modified through our system configuration. With these same 3 users selected, we go back to Actions. Next, we can edit them. Any edit that you make applies to all users who are checked. In this case, if I select property, I can change your location to the same location. Let's say from Denver to Parker. Or everybody was promoted at the same time to a similar role, to the same role. Or they were moved to a different practice area. Just remember, all checkboxes selected will be affected whenever we make a mass edit such as this one. We're going to cancel. With our 3 users selected, we click on Actions, and we can export information about these users. We export it to an Excel spreadsheet and analyze from there. And then finally, we can email them. Upon clicking on Email, we have 4 options. We can send a direct email message, which is an ad hoc message we'd like to send to everybody. Those messages can contain any text that you want. Compliance report. We can send hyperlinks to all the licenses that these 3 particular people have by clicking on Compliance report. And moving all the licenses that are in our database on over to the right-hand side with one note. Let's say that an attorney or CPA only has specific licenses, such as just Colorado Accounting and Colorado Law. When they receive an email with their compliance reports, they will only see those 2 licenses. So it's okay to select all of them. We click on Next, and we decide for reply to, who should replies go to? Send as, we will select the same person. We can modify the subject, take a view here, or to see the official preview, click on the Preview Email button. In this case, Nate will see the following in his compliance report. On clicking any one of these, the user will be routed to the browser opening an instance of the portal. Click on Close. And we click on Close again. To clear all the buttons on the page, we click once to select everything on the page and click again to deselect everybody. If users span multiple pages, please note you can use the drop-down arrow to select everybody on all pages or deselect everybody on all pages. Let's clear our filter. And now we wrap up our lesson with looking at compliance reports. Again, we'll look at Elias compliance reports. Select New York Law and work our way from top to bottom. At the very top of this page, we see that we can toggle between all of the licenses that she holds. Stick with New York. In this instance, we can toggle between her current reporting period and all periods. If an attorney or CPA only has one reporting period, that current period will be the same as all periods. But in this case, we see we are working with an experienced attorney. So we'll click on all periods. And here we can see all reporting periods since her first newly admit period. Next, for Micron Summary, this will show us the rules for New York Law. Upon clicking Micron Summary, we see New York's rules. Again, we can click on official website to see those rules on the New York State site. Actions. We have multiple actions we can apply in the compliance report. We can edit the license. For example, if we're missing a bar registration number or missing some functionality, such as set to pending, and we want to take it off of pending, we would edit the license. Specify conditions. Upon clicking on specify conditions, we see a screen pop up with exemptions. If we expand this first section, what we can see is, do we want to track the user's past data? And we can say yes or no. And there are several other options that we can select. Please note, every jurisdiction out there will have slightly different exemptions. However, all of them will allow you to apply specific notes. We move on to extensions. And in extensions, if we expand one of the reporting periods, we can apply currently earned credits to prior periods, termed applying retroactive credits. It's just where we have a deficit of credits in a prior period, and we need to take credits from the current period to satisfy those needs. We can apply that here in extensions. Finally, we have specializations. Again, every jurisdiction is different. Some jurisdictions have specializations, others do not. In this case, New York law has no specializations. Finally, we can print the compliance report by clicking on print, determining which periods we want to see, and if we want to see the course load or not. We get a print preview, scroll down. If everything looks proper, we go ahead and click print again. And just like before, we click save as PDF to print this. You will get the best results using this option in destination. Clicking on save will prompt you for saving the PDF to a specific location on your computer. Let's cancel and close her compliance report. Moving down, we see the jurisdiction as well as jurisdiction specific information for Alaya. In this case, bar admission date, graduation date, birth date, and registration number. Scrolling down, we see each compliance reporting period with the credit types. Credit types differ by jurisdiction, as well as the number of credits that are required to stay in compliance. For this jurisdiction, we have a column for carried in for credits that are carried in from a previous reporting period. We can see all the credits earned during the current reporting period. Most importantly, we can see the number of credits that are applied in the current reporting period. Obviously, not all credits earned are applied. In this case, we only need 4 credits for ethics in order to be in compliance with that category, so 4 are applied there. Each jurisdiction has rules as far as what credits can be carried out if they allow those credits to be carried out in the first place. In this case, we're carrying over 5 credits to the next reporting period. We also see how many credits go unused, and if any credits are still needed, we would see those in red text right here. We can scroll down and see other reporting periods if desired. Inside of the kebab or menu for the reporting period, we click on it, and let's start with application summary. Inside of application summary, we can view credits carried over from a previous reporting period listed here. We can see retroactively applied credits. And finally, we can research all the courses that were taken and see which credits earned were actually applied. For example, of the 5 credits of ethics earned here, 4 were applied, 1 was carried out, none were unused. This screen is very helpful when researching exactly why some credits weren't applied where others were. We go ahead and close this window. We are done with this compliance report, so we will close it. Back to the home page. Thanks so much for watching this video on CE Manager's System Overview, Homepage, and Working with System Users.